Hey, Action Shelf listeners, before we jump into the show itself, we want to tell you about how you can get even more action in your life. That appeals to you.
More action, you say,
More action,
John.
you say, yes. If you go over to our Podbean patron page, that's patron.podbean.com/punchup. You can listen to Lisman and I watch, what's this? Good action movies.
Good action movies, you say?
That's right, a change of pace. We thought behind the paywall, let's give people something of quality.
And give us something of quality.
I know, it's such a pleasure to do that. So twice a month, you and I will be doing commentary tracks that you can download for good action movies, all kinds of awesome stuff from a lot of our heroes like John Woo. And we've done stuff from the John Wick franchise and Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all the guys we never get to talk about on here.
Yeah, stuff we legitimately love and love to share with you all.
Yeah. So you can listen to that as well as other cool exclusive content from the Punch Up Entertainment Network shows. Once again, the address for that is patron.podbean.com/punchup. And now, into the action.
The Action Show. Action Show. The Action Show. The Action Show.
Welcome to the Action Shelf, the podcast celebrates the glory of B action movies. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Michael Lisman.
Oh, Lisman, we survived WWE January here on the show, so a whole month of wrestling movies got us all hyped up and full of masculine energy. Oh, yeah, brother.
Yes. So we're going to replace that masculine energy with a different kind of energy.
Yeah.
And in fact, I realize now that I introduced myself properly for this month.
Yeah.
What I meant to say was, it's me, a Michael.
Yeah, yahoo. Yeah, no, because this is February.
Take notes, Chris Pratt. Take notes.
Interesting. He's Pratt's a big Action Shelf fan. We know this.
Yeah. Oh yes,
but
he writes in a lot.
He writes in a lot, and we're always like, "Don't you have something better to do, Chris Pratt?" God, leave us alone, movie star Chris Pratt. This month on the show, we're declaring February Video Game Valentine's Month. Yay! A month of video game adaptations. Something that's always good in film. They're never bad.
I've often said I've often said this theory.
Yeah.
That the perfect movie adaptation is from a video game. There's never been a bad adaptation.
Not once, not
from
ever.
A video game.
Not once, not ever.
I think this movie proves it. And
Best movie,
I think our guest this week is going to back me up. I get the distinct feeling.
A month of such quality as video game movies obviously requires a month of guests on here too, right?
Exactly. So, there's too much quality to go around.
We got to share these movies. And volunteering yet again, he's one of our most frequent guests. I gotta say, I just love every movie this guy chooses. Our good friend Alex Shafer is back with us.
That's right, folks. I'm back here at the Action Shelf Arcade, and I put in my quarter for the Player 3 slot.
Yeah.
And oh boy,
you really got something this time, man. Because
I don't know how I do it. I don't know how. I don't do any research.
No.
Okay, I do a little bit because sometimes I'm curious about who's in it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't check out anything about the movie. I'm going off of title and gut feeling alone.
And where that gut feeling leads you are so many strange avenues on this show.
Oh, wow.
Including the most unwatchable movie from last year,
Abraxas.
That
was our hardest to watch
film. Yes, it was.
Yeah, brother. Abraxas Secundus. But if you thought that was weird, Abraxas Secundus. Now you've got Kogoshuko and Abobo as we talk about 1994's Double Dragon. Oh yeah.
And this is, I think, the peak of quality video game movie adaptation.
I mean, I don't even know why they kept
specific
doing. They're just
style.
like they nailed it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, this is. You were asking this before we started recording, listening about what year did the Super Mario Brothers movie come out, and it was the year before this. And I also got a lot of the vibes of that movie watching this.
Yes.
Now I will ask: had either of you seen this movie before?
So, I'm not sure, because we get to a point later in the movie that felt like it unlocked some sort of like a core memory.
Yeah.
But I have no other recollection of any other bit of this movie. So maybe it's just something I absorbed through the internet.
Could be. I definitely did watch it like as a kid because anything like this. I watched all the video game movies, right? But like this one didn't make a huge impression on me, but I definitely did see it on like cable in the 90s for sure because it was just like, oh, Double Dragon is a thing I know. And I got
Alex,
yeah.
Alex, can I ask you, was the moment that made the impression that you realized that something was unlocked, was that when they were force feeding liquidized spinach to adobo? Was that what it was? That unlocked something for me.
Just the reveal of his transformation, but also the spinach thing. Yeah, and like, I don't know if maybe it's from memes or just some weird dark internet humor stuff. And it's not really dark; it's just kind of weird.
This belongs on the dark web, I think.
Yeah, you do have to go to some very specific websites to find a Bobo stuff.
A Bobo merchandise.
A Bobo.
But like that character is just so distinct that I swear I've seen it before. But I don't know where.
Now
you might be thinking of Vin Diesel. Are you thinking of Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel saw this movie and went, "That's the shape I need to get in."
But it never once did a Bobo mention family or drink Corona with the label facing out.
No,
so,
he never did it. In fact, I want to talk about some weird label stuff in this movie later. There's some weird label
great
stuff.
Product placement.
There is, yeah. But I will also ask this: as
product would put their what brand would put their product in this movie?
When the Double Dragon arcade game is in the movie, that really threw me.
John,
that was great.
That brings up so many questions.
That was just chef's kiss, like, beautiful.
It was just like, man, just when you thought this movie couldn't get weirder, it acknowledges the video game it's adapting exists in the world of the movie, and you're like, so you've just shattered reality. Like, it's just like, of course.
Exactly. It's very much Julia Roberts in
Ocean's 12.
Ocean's 12. Yeah. Yeah. It's
when they
it's
broke
that
movies.
kind of moment.
As we have
only way
off reference that movie broke films.
The only way the fan service could be more ham-fisted is if it was a Bobo's fist.
Yeah.
So this is something I was going to ask then. I'll also ask about each of the things.
Ham, right? Because his fist is the size of a ham. Okay, I got it.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say is how familiar are you guys with the Double Dragon games? Because I will say it was amongst the games of this era, but I was more into the Mortal Kombat and the Street Fighter and stuff like that than I was into.
This is almost a different. I mean, this is the beat 'em up genre.
This is the side scroll
this was more like your Streets of Rage,
which I was playing.
Streets of Rage, I played the Ninja Turtles game. I played
The Simpsons,
X-Men. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely dabbled in some Double Dragon. I mean, because it was definitely an arcade game, and I think one of our local like Bullwinkles had that.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And
but I
remember.
Yeah, I was just
playing the others on Sega Genesis. But a little bit because it was just like a rental and then like done. I never owned them.
Yeah, no, I was never. There was never like one of the game franchises I really engaged with.
Right.
The thing I do remember it being like much like this. I remember this movie come in, and I remember there being a cartoon show of it too that I remember watching.
Definitely was a cartoon show.
That I do. I remember more the animated series, probably engaging with that more than the actual games themselves. And I think I might have had some action figures from that because I was.
And it makes sense to make a cartoon out of it because the lore is so rich, and
So
deep.
the mythos of the Lee
Yeah,
brothers
the mythos
and a
the
Bobo.
Double Drag. I mean, and there's so many games, so they just continue to expand the world that this franchise takes place in.
They did put out 6 games on the Sega Genesis.
That's nuts.
Jesus Christ.
So when you say there are so many games, listening, you're not wrong.
But this is also a franchise that, as far as I know, hasn't existed for a long time. It hasn't had like the life of some of the other stuff.
No,
that we're going to
because
talk
beat 'em
about.
ups in general hasn't really. There's been a bit of a resurgence recently,
But I feel like they're all
Double Dragon
nostalgia.
has not been one that's been remade.
The
People have not come back
No.
that well.
But the resurgence of them is almost like arch and it's nostalgia. It's things like that Scott
Yes.
Pilgrim game or the new Ninja
Or-
Turtles games, right? Where it's like
Definitely.
it's almost
River City Rampage.
Yeah, that's what I
those,
mean. Where it's
that are
Great
in like the style of the old games, but are definitely updated and have
They're-
a lot of quality of life.
and
Yeah.
they're almost acknowledging the silliness of the beat 'em. You know what I mean? Like it's almost playing
Oh,
into
for
like
sure.
the tropes of it as opposed to being because it was a silly, It's. I mean, I do think
course.
the beat 'em ups is it's such a '90s specific thing. And this you don't get much more '90s than this movie.
Did they ever make a Streets of Rage movie? Because that's the movie
No,
I want to see.
I think there have been attempts, but they've never actually done it.
I just want to see what's the mayor? He's like the mayor of the town, Haggard or something like that.
Something like
and
that.
he just goes around personally fighting crime.
Yeah.
as part of his election campaign.
I
And
played
that
a lot.
sounds like a stupid movie I would watch.
I did play a lot of Streets of Rage, and that I do remember a lot of like swinging like wrenches and crowbars into people's faces and stuff.
and pile driving people, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I put in a fair amount of time on Streets of Rage.
That's a movie I want to see, and I want to see Nick Offerman play the main
sold.
character.
You just sold a
that's what I
ticket,
want.
Listman.
Yeah.
Done and done right there. But let's talk about this movie.
I would also accept David Harbour. I
Ooh,
also
yeah.
want to say.
Yeah. Let's
Both
talk
great
about
choices.
this movie, Double Dragon, which this is one that like kind of struck while the iron was hot in terms of this was right in the era of Double Dragon was huge at this point.
Yes.
This is not like after the fact. I do have a budget for this movie. Do you guys want to take your best guess at how much this movie cost in 1994?
10 million
Lisbon saying 10. Alex?
feels high. I don't know. I'm so bad at this game.
7 million.
Ooh, damn, Alex, damn, yes. 7.8 technically, but I will absolutely give you 7. Yeah. And Lisbon, you're in the pocket of the 10.
ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, 7 million. Yeah. And it made 2.3. So even as cheap as this movie was, it couldn't come close to making back its. So that's why we never got Double Dragon 2.
Oh,
No
what a
more
shame.
adventures for the Lee brothers.
Mm.
Oh boy, yeah. This comes to us from director James Yukich, who also primarily seems to be a music video director, having done a lot of Def Leppard music videos.
I see that. Phil Collins.
Lots of concerts as well. New Kids on the Block. Not a lot of films. I think this is one of his only, and possibly maybe his only feature film. Lots
Wonder
of
why he
music
didn't stick. you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's just this movie's bad across the board. I don't know that it's like horribly. It's not well directed, but I don't know that it's like horribly directed.
I mean, again, if you approach this movie as like a performance art piece, like some sort of abstract piece of strangeness, and stop thinking about it like it's a normal film, I think it's transcendent.
Well, I do want to talk about looking at the writers. One of them is a guy named Peter Gould.
One of them was. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, Peter Gould goes on to be co-showrunner of Breaking Bad and co-creator of Better Call Saul. So
In fact, there's a through line.
yeah, this was his first writing job. This is his first credited writing job on anything. So everybody's got to start somewhere. But the fact that somebody who had a hand in writing this movie goes on to create some of the best television ever made.
Wow. I mean, not only have I seen a lot of horrible movies for this podcast, I've watched a lot of horrible video game movies. Most of them directed by, is it Uwe Boll?
Uwe Boll. Yeah, that Uwe Boll. Stay tuned for next week, folks. We got an Uwe Boll movie coming next week.
So my bar for this movie was already very, very low.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I feel like it cleared it.
Yeah,
I felt it was pretty nonsensical at times and very outlandish, but it was fairly entertaining throughout the entirety of it, right?
It was not boring.
It was never boring.
And that is a cardinal sin of an action shelf movie, and it does not commit that. It is at all turns, every time it slows for even a second, it does something nuts. Right?
I would say 75% of every scene that happens in this movie ends with 100 people busting out of like sewer drains and windows and like ambushing the main.
This has the most random appearances of henchmen probably of any movie we've seen, which is very video game-y.
That's true, and they're all very distinct. I got a lot of like Escape from L.A. Escape from New York. A lot of the Warriors. Yeah.
I was gonna say
different gangs.
Yeah,
that was kind of a cool touch.
Yeah. The
mimes.
The mimes.
The mime gang.
The
Mohawk gang.
The mailmen were my favorite though.
Was there a whole gang of mailmen, or was it just one guy who dressed as a mailman?
Well, there's one guy they specifically focus on in that one insane. I think he's suicidal, obviously. Based on the way
assuming,
but you do see other mailmen with. I like that they all have the mail pouch with like letters in it. That's required.
It's also one of their weapons.
Yeah,
they're swinging bags over their head like it's a fucking flail.
Listen, I don't know if you looked up who the other co-writer of this movie is. Michael Davis.
Oh, that person I did. We keep circling around the person that I do want to talk about, but yes,
but Michael Davis wrote and directed a movie we love, a little film called Shoot 'Em Up.
Oh, what a gem!
What a gem! A movie that is basically an extended 90-minute gunfight.
Yes, all the way through.
A movie we love that is just like all semblance of it's. We need to do a commentary for that, because that might be the ultimate action shelf movie, and that it's just like, you know what, throw everything else out the window. This movie is nothing but gunfights.
There's nothing but, yeah.
Do you want to talk about Paul Dini, Listman? Is that who you want to talk about?
Yes, Paul Dini. That struck me as weird.
Paul Dini, one of easily like a top 5 Batman writer. Co-showrunner of Batman the Animated Series, has written a lot of comics of the character as well, is sort of like one of the main co-creator of Harley Quinn. Also wrote for things like Star Wars: The Clone Wars, wrote for Lost, really good, wrote Maleficent for Disney. Now he has a story by credit, which implies he wrote something early and isn't. So I was like, okay, just story by my man Paul Dini. And I guess at this time it would kind of make sense that you would bring in, we're going to do Double Dragon, let's get somebody from Batman the Animated Series, which was also huge at this point, is actually a good instinct. They obviously didn't use a lot of whatever he wrote, since he only has a story by credit.
Is this movie in line with the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin?
Batman Forever would be the next year. 95.
Okay. Because this feels very similar to those as well.
Yeah.
The gangs feel like they could fit in that Gotham very easily.
The Schumacher. Well, it is sort of, I think what we're responding to in all the Super Mario Brothers, the Schumacher Batmans, is this like, if it's a comic book or a video game, it needs to be nuts. You know, it needs to be absolutely wild.
Yes.
Well, they'll have this very like everything's very dingy but neon at the same time
Yeah.
kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the thing you were talking about. Like, I was thinking about, like, and we were talking about this last week with 12 Rounds of sort of like being pieces of other better movies. And I am going like, yeah, it kind of wants to be Mad Max or Escape from New York, but ooh, not as dark as those things. Like, it's like a post-apocalyptic dystopian, but not really. It's a kids
It's still
movie.
PG-13 and a comedy.
It's still for kids. It's because there's a lot. I have a lot of questions about this world where I'm going like, okay, it seems like society is still kind of functioning,
Fully
even though it's
functioning still,
also
yes.
it's weird because we should say this movie takes place in New Angeles of 2007.
Yes.
Right.
Love that title.
Which I thought was a pretty accurate
pretty
depiction.
close, yeah.
Yeah, of 2007.
Following
definitely.
the big quake, which is very much the plot of Escape from LA, of course, is literally
exactly.
an earthquake has separated Los Angeles from the rest of the country and made it an island.
You think that Geostorm is the prequel to this movie?
Geostorm! And actually, Escape from LA comes out after this movie.
Oh, weird.
It's around. It's another thing where I want to say that's like 96. Yeah, 96.
Just goes to show John Carpenter's a hack.
Well, one thing we do know about John Carpenter, huge gamer. Legitimately. That seems like a joke where I'm going like, haha. No, really, he has talked about legitimately. He goes, people go, you ever going to direct another movie? He goes, why would I? There's too many video games to play. Which I'm like, God bless you, John Carpenter, for just being an ultimate nerd. Like, I'm too busy playing video games to make more movies. It's like, oh man, you walk the walk as a nerd filmmaker, man. He's like, if you played the Fallout games, that takes a lot of my time.
I will say, this movie also is reminiscent of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies.
Did you happen to see the connection?
It did, yes. Michael Davis was one of the writers for The Secret of the Ooze,
yes.
I think. That is the second Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah. And that
boy, these feel very similar.
Well, that's the thing where I do feel like that's really what they're trying to capture. Because those movies were huge hits.
Huge. Yeah.
Massive hits. We all grew up in the turtle-obsessed generation, obviously. I mean, I lived in... I could still, to this day, I rewatched those recently, and they're not the first one I really love. I do really love the original Ninja Turtles movie. The second, Secret of the Ooze, but it was one of those things where it's like I hadn't seen it in 15 years and I somehow knew every line when I watched it again. I just realized how many times I've seen Secret of the Ooze. And the other thing that this movie is a hodgepodge of all this 90s stuff. The other thing I kept thinking, particularly with the characterization of the Lee brothers, I couldn't not think about Bill and Ted.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Which was also a massive movie, comic book, cartoon show. Once again, that was a multimedia thing too, and I'm sure there were Bill and Ted video games. There had.
I think so. If there is, I haven't played them, but I'm curious.
The difference there is those are out and out comedies, you know.
Yes.
This movie, I mean, tone is a big question here, right?
Yes, exactly.
How serious am I meant to take anything that happens in this movie? Because I'll tell you one guy.
Not at all.
Well, I'll tell you one guy
all,
who's not taking anything seriously is Robert Patrick. He is in no way trying to play a real person or legit threat.
Oh, no, not at all.
As Kogashuko.
Kogashuko, who is not... So this is an original character. I don't believe this character shows up in the video games.
I don't. Yeah, this was the thing. Once again, not being familiar, I kind of didn't look it up. I just kept going. Wonder if that's a thing from the game. Like a lot of
you'd think it would be because it's such a Japanese sounding name. But like, no, the original villain was named Willie.
Oh, well, that's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. That's there's a whole thing about I'm going like, oh, it's weird that Robert Patrick's playing a guy named Kogashuko, and then the movie actually acknowledges that.
Right, because it's like a title that he gained or something from the previous.
the name of some other warlord that he adopted because
Yeah.
he's an edgelord and thought it sounded cool.
Yeah. I gotta say, Robert Patrick is, I mean, once again, I do feel like we talked about him just last month in The Marine. He's a really good actor.
Yes.
But holy crap, he needs to fire his agent. Because, my God, the stuff that I mean, actually, more now he's doing better stuff, because we talked about how great he is in Peacemaker, and now he's on 1923, the Yellowstone prequel series with Harrison Ford.
Oh, cool.
And he's really good on that, and he just did the voice of Wolverine in one of the really good if anyone's not listening to the Marvel audio drama podcast they've been making, they're fantastic. I really highly recommend them. But he just did the voice of Wolverine in one of those. So
cool.
Awesome. So he's doing stuff, but man, I was looking at because this is 3 years after T2. So he's in one of the greatest action movies ever made 3 years before this, right? As one of, definitely you would put him, wouldn't you, Listman, amongst the most iconic villains in film history as the T-1000.
Definitely.
I mean, great bad guy. But then I'm looking at, it's all action shelf bullshit around the time of this movie. I don't know what happened.
He just got caught up in it, It's a trap. Because I was going lures you in with easy money.
Yeah, because I was watching this going I wonder what he was doing around this time. And I'm looking, it's things like zero tolerance, body language, last gasp, decoy, and it's oh, these are all movies we would do on here, and probably will.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Maybe he pulled a Nicolas Cage and bought an island and some exotic animals he couldn't afford, he had to just slum it for a bit to pay some bills.
Quickly blew through that Terminator money.
Yeah.
Before, of course, he ends up on the X-Files by the end of the 90s as Doggett, and maybe that paid for some stuff because that was a good gig for him. But so yeah, it's just interesting because I'm watching this going oh man, but he is so. I think even more than the Marine, he's well, this is dumb. I'm gonna be dumb in this. His performance is not bad, but it is oh, in every scene I'm going, oh, he is not taking any of this seriously, is he?
No.
And let me ask this actually then: is anyone taking this movie seriously? Because
I don't think
the one person who he doesn't come out unscathed, but I think comes out looking the best is Mark Dacascos.
Because he actually does do martial arts. That's pretty okay. Yeah.
Jimmy Lee, playing Jimmy Lee. We haven't talked about Mark Dacascos on the show, but he is an icon of straight-to-video martial arts movies. But of course, best known to people as the Iron Chef host.
Yes, and he does a great job on that. I love him so much.
And I actually think he's not good in this because the script is terrible, but he's way more charismatic than Scot Wolf, who is awful in this movie.
And also Scot Wolf, well, one, obviously not a martial artist. So all of his fight scenes end up as cartoon sort of gags more than anything else.
I think my favorite beat is you see Mark Dacascos spin kick a couple guys, and then literally I watched you cut to Scot Wolf scrambling under a car to get away from a guy. I'm going oh wow. And yeah, you will see a scene that's Mark Dacascos takes out 7 guys and Scot Wolf punches one guy.
Punches one guy, or he breaks a gumball machine, or he I don't know, does some Three Stooges bullshit.
My favorite note I wrote down is Dacascos uses bow staff, Wolf gumballs. Because Dacascos is pretty that fight, and we also have one of our favorites, Al Leong, as one of the henchmen here. That bow staff fight between them was pretty good.
It was, yeah.
I mean, especially by Double Dragon standards. But yes, then you're cross-cutting with another guy slipping on gumballs.
And technically, Billy Lee is the protagonist.
Yeah,
because he's the protagonist of the video games.
Right.
If you're doing co-op, then somebody can be Jimmy. But
right,
it's interesting they went with why is Scot Wolf main character of
Well,
this movie.
Scot Wolf was on a very successful TV show at the time called Party of Five, if anyone remembers. And I think there was an attempt to turn him into a movie star.
How did that go, John?
It didn't go great. And Scott, I gotta say, I actually like Scot Wolf just fine. Like, he's not a bad actor. It's just he should not be in this kind. He is like a drama guy. Like, Party of Five was a show about adult orphans, you know, like having to raise their younger siblings. It's not. I don't know why anybody thought, like, yes, action hero guy.
Yeah,
and he gets all the worst lines in this thing.
It's true. That is very true.
Horrible. I mean, like, all the one-liners I wrote down are his, and they're terrible.
Some of the dialogue in this movie was impossible to follow. Like, the sentence structure was so strange that it felt like it was sent through Google Translate to something and then back into English, and then that's what they're working off of.
I think almost across the board when you're talking about this movie, though, the 1994, the Scot Wolf of it all, and then, if that wasn't enough, Alyssa Milano as our leading lady is very like, boy, only in 94 am I watching a Scot Wolf, Alyssa Milano movie.
Now let's get in. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, just speaking of the kind of nonsensical dialogue, I take the advice to put subtitles on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I knew I was in for a good one very early on when, probably just because I was watching on Amazon, maybe the other services have different subtitles, but it just said whacking when there was some violence and they were like beating some guy with the bow staff.
Yeah.
So that was great.
I love when the whacking scene. I
great.
So good.
This movie has some of cinema's finest whacking. No, this movie also, aside from just the silliness of seeing whacking pop up as a sound, there's a lot of goofy sound effects in this movie.
Yes.
Which is very Ninja Turtles. Once again, I do see the Ninja Turtles, and you see a bunch of influences. The other thing, listen, we did recently do the RoboCop commentary. All the news shit in this movie is so RoboCop, but unfocused, not funny like the RoboCop stuff is. The RoboCop fake TV stuff is legitimately funny. Here, it's weird, and I don't understand the idea of there being like celebrity news anchors. I don't even know what that's
There's a lot of
commenting
weird
on.
celebrity polls in this movie.
Andy Dick.
Another indication it's 1994 is Andy Dick is in a movie.
That is definitely the clearest indication that this movie takes place in a post-apocalyptic world.
Well, you know
Andy
what?
Dick is on television.
That's kind of... I kind of took it as some interesting world building where like everything's gone to shit so bad that Andy Dick now has to be a newscaster, and
it's George Hamilton and Vanna White are the anchors. Like,
this also brings up an interesting question. Now, obviously, the earthquake happened and destroyed Los Angeles, and now it is New Angeles. Is the whole world destroyed, or is it just?
I think it's
New Angeles that's post-apocalyptic.
I think it's just New Angeles, but the movie doesn't really care. And there's also this running thing that because of the damage to the world or to New Angeles, every building is jacked up, like everything is above the ground.
Now that won't protect them from Earth. It's still connected to the ground.
Well, it would have to.
That doesn't.
They're not floating. I mean, but yeah, this whole idea about like, and you literally see guys. There's the one fight scene early on where you have a little person jacking up the the arena or whatever that they're in.
That what was happening? Because an aftershock was happening during a fight scene in what looked like a high school basketball gymnasium.
Yeah. Hey, $7.8 million only gets you so far, Lesman.
And so he's like raising the roof of the. I wasn't really sure the mechanics of that and why that was happening.
Well, the only reason that I didn't know what he was doing either, but then it cuts to a TV commercial for going like, yeah, come on down to the Jack warehouse to get all your jacking needs. I mean, my God, the whacking, the jacking in this movie, come on.
Yeah.
I got kids here, man.
Columbo's too young for this kind of language.
I had to hide my cat because it was just like, I don't think so, man. This movie's nothing but whacking and jacking. Yeah, oh God, all that. So that's
US
the
federal
implication.
government abandoned Los Angeles. Is that what?
Yeah,
we're
I think we're dealing.
Character comments on that. Even they say that the government just has abandoned us.
Yeah, and
it's too expensive of an investment. But yet
there seems to be a fully financed police force that has like resources and a lot of officers. That was the thing that I did when this movie ended with like everyone getting arrested by a bunch of cops showing up. I'm going, oh, that's not how I thought this was gonna. Like, Escape from New York doesn't end with the cop showing up. That's not a thing.
Right.
Where the whole idea is you're on your own, basically, in movies like this. Because then
where are their paychecks? Where are these police officers' paychecks coming from?
Well,
Is there a taxation system now?
I don't know. Well, then there's a whole thing about, like, New Angeles is this crime-infested hellhole. And then the whole thing about Alyssa Milano lives in the suburbs, though, where everything seems idyllic and unaffected. She's leading a double life as a suburban teenage girl / resistance leader.
Not just resistance. She's the ringleader of a terrorist organization
called Power Corps. Which
yes,
every time almost everything anyone says that's like a name or title in this movie is so silly to me. Every time they're talking about, I love when her father, who's the chief of police, is watching TV and he goes, that damn Power Corps.
Alyssa Milano's character is maybe the most baffling.
Yes.
Because one, she is a teenage daughter. I don't know if there's like school or anything. It doesn't appear that there is.
And she's got an annoying.
She is also.
It's the 90s, so she's got an annoying little brother that he doesn't play into the plot at all. I just want to acknowledge him.
Yes. Yeah. Like the whole subplot of her being a suburban teenage daughter. One being problematic is like, oh, well, she's from the suburbs, so she's going to use her privilege to come in and fix the inner city. That's pretty thinly veiled. But
and actually, there could be a commentary there in a better movie. I mean, I would never expect it, but sort of this thing where it's like, I have this privilege. If the movie was about her, you could make it a thing where it's like, I can't just sit by in my privilege and let people suffer. The movie doesn't actually want to have anything to actually say about any of this stuff.
Right.
But like that, there's something there.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say there's potentially an interesting dichotomy to explore there that the movie does not, of course.
But instead, they decide to make her the head of an organization that hangs out in a Willy Wonka nightmare factory that enlists the help of children. There's a whole army of children that she controls who rollerblade around.
Oh, God. I mean, once again, it's such a 90s idea of like, they're kid terrorists on rollerblades, but they hang out in a clubhouse. And you're like, what? This all adds up to this whole...
The pool of acid?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think that's just the waste from the city because it's this like post disaster corporate health state. And I think they also mention all the children are orphans from the earthquake.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is also very like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, where you have all the abandoned kids. But once again, it's this movie. I'm going like, are you trying to like? Good movies like this have something to say about society and stuff like that. It's all sort of analogies and things. Mad Max, Escape from New York. These are made by smart people who have pointed satire to make. Here, this movie is, you're like, I don't know what this, or RoboCop, of course, being the ultimate example of that, but you're going like, I don't know, what is this movie saying about anything? Because you have Kogashuko, who's in like a fancy tower that's like does seem to be floating above the city, because they have the glass floor where they're looking down on the wrecked ground of New Angeles, right?
Right, exactly. Yes. So he's a CEO of a large corporation. Is that what we're led to believe?
I think so, and I know this only because not only do we see like this lab, but when they're in Alyssa Milano's suburban home, they're eating Shuko Crispy cereal.
Mm.
So this is very similar to the Hulk Hogan Santa with Muscles movie we watched, where
So he's like, he's like the Kellogg's guy.
I guess.
I-
Did you catch this? This really made me laugh. So they made this cereal box that they redesigned as Shuko Krispies, right? They replaced the word rice in Rice Krispies with Shuko, and then they drew sunglasses on Snap Crackle Pop, because the whole thing throughout the whole movie is Robert Patrick's always wearing sunglasses. But the box was open, so you see the top flap, and it still says Kellogg's Rice Krispies. It's like,
Did this movie come out in theaters?
it sure did.
How? How does that happen?
Well,
I don't understand.
Okay, this is a game we play sometimes, Listman. Other movies that came out in theaters in 19... Let's look at other action movies of 1994. Ooh, we've got some good ones here. Well, number one, Street Fighter comes out the same year.
Okay, that feels very similar. Yeah.
That feels very similar. Also, Van Damme in Time Cop comes out that year, too.
It's a big year for Van Damme.
Big year for Van Damme. We've got Harrison Ford in Clear and Present Danger, his second Jack Ryan movie. Mel Gibson's in Maverick. You've got Star Trek Generations.
Oh, yeah.
You've got previous episode Death Wish 5, The Face of Death. Stargate. The Crow. And the Leon the Professional, a favorite of ours. And I think the big movie of that year, a little film called Speed. Little action masterpiece called Speed.
Yeah.
So
I haven't heard of it. It must be very, very.
So you're saying this movie was like what, top 3 then?
yeah,
I think
one of
top
the big
3,
ones.
yeah.
It's like Speed, Time Cop, Double Dragon. No,
Yeah.
no, it's
Mhm.
it's always
that feels
interesting
right.
to see. Like, those were the other movies that were, and there's a bunch of other ones too. But like, those are kind of the big movies. That The Mask also comes out this year. In terms of, I actually think that was chasing this audience. That would have been what I was obsessed with at this time. Would have been, I love The Mask. But that's
These are so strange.
that's
They're
a
so
that's a
strange.
comic book adaptation aimed kind of at a younger audience as a video game movie.
Right.
I think that's that. But The Mask
Also not really being appropriate for children, as I recall.
no, it is one of those things that's like, oh, it's ostensibly for kids, but it's definitely not. Like, I still love The Mask. It's great. But
I haven't seen it in a while.
it's fun. But this movie's just so that's what this movie's up against at the box office.
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about what the titular Double Dragon is. The whole movie is this MacGuffin hunt for this medallion that's been split into 2. It's the titular Double Dragon. And the idea is one half control gives you power over body, and the other half gives you power over soul.
Okay. That wasn't super clear from
From
the movie, I
at the
feel like.
beginning of the movie, Shuko gets his hands on the soul half.
So he's a soul man for the rest of the movie.
Man, huge missed opportunity not to play that song. I'm a soul man.
Just Robert Patrick just dancing to it.
He's already got the sunglasses to do the Blues Brothers, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
So
opportunity.
His soul power means he can turn into like a flat cardboard cutout shadow creature.
Is this the worst CGI effect you've seen in any movie?
It's pretty
No.
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 Alex, what is?
Because one, in this own movie, there's all of the CGI like car stuff.
Yo, all that stuff
Which
is garbage.
just like wireframes and polygon.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
also, the 3 of us watched a movie called Bermuda Tentacle.
Well, yeah,
We did do that.
that's true, and
We
that
did do
was
that.
horrible. The CGI was horrible.
Boy.
But yes, you do have a lot of that kind of computer animation that you're talking about, Alex, which I remember it was in a lot of movies and TV at this time.
And that car chase that you mentioned, Alex, is the entire car chase is shown in this crappy like early 90s CG. Like they obviously don't have the budget to shoot a real car chase.
No.
So they're doing, and they think this will be exciting. We'll
I
just
mean,
allude to a car chase, really.
It almost like it conceptually it almost works, right? Because you have the shots of them in the vehicle, you have the shots of the characters in the vehicle, and then you have this like digital, like they almost get away with it, but no, the CGI is so bad.
It's really bad, and all the cars are like shitty Mad Max-esque cars.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And there's a running thing about their car is powered by garbage.
Yes, that's what I was wondering. That's just the technology of the times, or is there something about, or has fossil fuels, is that no longer a viable resource in the apocalyptic 2000s?
But it does seem like actually then this is a better future, right? If we can just throw garbage into the machine and it powers our cars.
Why are all the streets filled with garbage? That's car fuel.
I know, it does seem like everybody would sweep that stuff up. Also, it's an idea they stole from Back to the Future Part 2.
That's true.
If anyone remembers the fusion device Doc has on the DeLorean in that movie, it is he pours garbage from the street into it, and it powers the car. But only he has that in that movie, so it's not like everybody's doing that.
I also don't see that device in any other car in this movie, too.
That's true. And I do love the point when it's like, we got to pick up some speed. So he throws a can of Cheese Whiz in, which is the equivalent of hitting the NOS in this movie, apparently.
Yes.
And also very 90s reference to Cheese Whiz. We were obsessed with canned cheese.
It's a shame we found out all those dark secrets about Cheese Whiz.
Well, even this movie is like that's like a half commentary when Scot Wolf's looking at the ingredients going like, oh yeah, this'll get it fired up.
Wow, it feels like Scot Wolf was here in the studio.
And talk about a guy not taking this seriously. Did you see that? I don't know if you guys looked at the trivia for this, but Scot Wolf refused to dye his hair blonde because he should have blonde hair from the game, right? And he was just like, nah, I won't do it.
Absolutely not. For this piece of shit, I can't blame him for that.
I can't blame him too much. But one of the things I love is they talk about, oh, where is this here? That Scot Wolf. Okay, here it is. Scot Wolf is considered by Double Dragon fans and creators alike to be miscast as Billy Lee for being nothing like his character from the game, lacking all traits such as being Asian. Yeah, such as being Asian.
Because they are brothers.
Yes,
they are brothers.
Such as being Asian, muscular, athletic, or having any skills or training in martial arts. What I love is there's only like 2 or 3 moments where there seems like there's a DeCosco stunt double. Meanwhile, it's like 90% stunt double for Scot Wolf.
And it's doing very unimpressive things, as is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
Why are they brothers? Are they adopted brothers in this movie?
Does the movie ever say?
It explained it. Yeah.
I don't think it does. It just asks us to go like, yeah. And we don't quite know what their background is because at the beginning of the movie, they're being raised / mentored by this woman, Satori.
Who honestly didn't look that much older than them.
Although they had some one of their
partners.
Yeah, I thought it was one of their partners originally.
I thought the same thing. Julia Nixon. When I'm like, I'm going like, wait a minute, is she like with DeCoscos or something? Because I do think it's weird that they're both into Alyssa Milano.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, that's weird. I thought they would each have a love interest maybe or something. It's weird. Like,
well, it is canon, John. It is canon.
This is true. But like, you do get weird moments when they're both like checking at her ass and then look at each other like, am I right? And I'm like, is this going to turn into like a throuple situation?
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so. Julia Nixon, though, I just want to bring up the woman who plays Satori. I immediately recognize because she's the female lead in Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Okay, gotcha.
So her previous screen love interest was Sylvester Stallone.
So, what do you think? Lateral move?
to no love interest, basically? Because it's so weird. Like, she's slightly older than them, but by the movie standards, she is not sexually viable then. Why would you be attracted to this woman? She's in her 30s.
Yeah, and these teenagers are in their 30s as well.
Well, that's another thing. I do when they bring up their profiles on the screen and they're like Billy Lee, 17. I'm like, oh, Scot Wolf is 25 at least. Scot Wolf is, yeah, actually he's 25 in this movie. Is exactly right. Actually, no, he's 26 in this movie. Actually,
okay.
So yeah, but that and looks it. I mean, they look young, but they look like guys in their 20s, not guys in their teens at all.
Yeah.
And Dacascos is 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That adds up. They look like guys in their late 20s, early 30s. Dacascos is only a couple years younger than the woman playing their mother figure.
I mean, at least she wasn't actually their mother.
Right. She's there, but the movie plays her in this very maternal way that in no way asks you to be like, oh no, this woman, like I said, there's no sexual attraction to her at all.
Right.
Even though she's a very attractive actress.
Yeah.
But they're like, yeah. And also she will unceremoniously die for no reason. When she blows up, I was like, why did that need to happen? Other than, like, obviously the movie has to be about these two guys, but she just kind of
have to be orphans, John. They have to be orphans.
They have to be orphans
so that it can be true to the source material.
But I want to talk about, and thank God IMDb has just a full like promotional costume test photo of what Alyssa Milano looks like in this movie, because across the board she looks nuts.
Yeah.
Number one, never have seen her as a blonde before. And it's not a good look on her. And then it's a severe short haircut, very 90s cool girl kind of look. She's got this sort of tank top t-shirt thing. And then it took me a second to figure out what I was looking at here. She's got they're jean shorts, but they're also connected to jean legs, but they've cut out the in-between of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What is this outfit?
I have no idea. It's not the most baffling outfit in this.
No. All the designs in this movie are nuts. But yeah, just guys, do yourself a favor and go look it up. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. It's a very 90s idea of like a futuristic cool outfit.
Mm-hmm.
It's very. I mean, the whole movie. This movie does encapsulate 1994 in a certain way.
It does, yeah. If somebody wanted a pure encapsulation of what media in the 90s looked like, this is probably not the worst thing.
And that obviously then makes sense why it takes place in the mid 2000s. Then.
Yeah. I like that their jump in time wasn't that much. It was a little over a decade. And they're like, things are going to be.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, Escape from New York takes place in 1997.
Okay, so less time.
Yeah, it is sort of like I mean, like that was sort of a thing where all of these movies are like, or I think, and then you got things like Mad Max, which I always think is the best thing, is just to be like the near future.
Because
just be
it's
vague.
Post-apocalyptic. They're not keeping track of time in the same way.
Yeah, I always just it's just like, and same thing with RoboCop. They never say what year it is. We just know it's vaguely the future, but not too far.
Right.
You know, and I think that's your best bet is to be vague about it. I know that was actually a thing that Zemeckis was hesitant to put a year on Back to the Future Part 2 because he's like, whatever it is, it's gonna look silly. And I remember when you get to that, I went to a revival screening of that movie on the date that movie takes place in, which was
very nice.
November or October of 2015. And they actually they put Back to the Future Part 2 back in theaters, which was fun.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm going to stop talking about Back to the Future because it makes me sad that I am not watching that trilogy, which I think is perfect, and this, which is terrible. So
I think you mean high art. Sorry, John, you misspoke. You meant to say high art.
So right off the bat, sorry, you're right. Right off the bat, I want to talk about at least right off the bat of the movie. Let's talk about how the movie introduces the Lee brothers. They're in some sort of tag team fighting competition.
In a basketball court, a
Mhm.
high school basketball gymnasium. Yes.
And obviously, Jimmy is a much better fighter than Billy. And
Mhm.
Billy will actively get them disqualified because he's an asshole.
Yes. Yeah. Not redeeming at all. Yeah.
No, I just love the movie start. But that's the thing that's crazy is you're like, okay, got it. Billy's kind of a hothead douchebag at the start. So by the end of the movie, No, I still hate him at the end of the movie.
Yeah, he's still
Kind of
unlikable.
sucks the whole way through. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why would you introduce a character this unlikable that isn't on a redemption arc? He's just a piece of shit from start to finish.
Who's supposed to be your main protagonist?
Yeah, he's the hero of the movie. I also, several times in the movie, I went, okay, at so many turns, danger is presented to both Lee brothers, and they just run away from it. There's a lot of
Very
them
thrilling.
running away from villains in this movie. And you're like,
Yes.
how exciting for an action movie where our heroes are supposed to be expert martial artists. You know, and I do love when you see in there and you're like, oh, God, this is one of those examples where Scott Wolf doesn't do anything I couldn't do.
Yes, exactly.
And then Dacascos gets a couple opportunities to do. He does do one of my favorite things, and Cynthia Rothrock does a lot, the behind the back kick.
Yeah.
The over the shoulder kick is so awesome.
Yeah.
Man, we need to do after this. I really want to do a proper Mark Dacascos martial arts movie on the show.
Should definitely. Yeah, I would love to see
that guy.
Let me throw this out there. March to Costco's.
Ooh, March to Costco's. I think that might be happening next year now. I like that idea.
I think so.
Thank you, Alex. March to Costco's. Because we did do a commentary for he's the main villain in John Wick Chapter 3, and he's fucking great in that movie. He's and I do think here, this is early in his career, and even as shitty as this part is, I do still, he's so, like I said, he's so much more likable. The character's more likable, and actually, I thought he was really good when he was pretending to be Robert Patrick in Jimmy's Body. I actually thought he did a good job of being a totally different character.
Yes, like full on comic book villain.
Yeah,
like the theatricality he had down really well.
Well, because they're like this guy. I get why this guy had a future career as an action hero. Like even as bad as this, I'm going like, oh, I see. I would want to watch more movies where he fights people and he doesn't have to drag an annoying white guy around with him. But I mean, it does.
But it's the 90s, John.
It's the 90s, so it has to be. Well, yeah, one of them can be Asian.
Yeah, we can't do both.
But as we talked about,
it's got to be someone the audience can relate to, John.
Yeah, which is awful and racist.
A white
but
man.
Even with that mentality, I don't know. We've seen plenty of white guys who know martial arts in these movies.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, man. Get almost anyone. Really, almost anyone other than Scott Wolf in this.
Yeah.
This is just
Scott Wolf is better than, let's say, Seagal, but that's
well, as I said, I don't think Scott Wolf's a bad actor. It's just he doesn't fit the part at all. All right, I think it's time we got to have the Abobo conversation.
Let's get into it.
We got to talk about the Abobo in the room.
Yeah.
So.
A boy.
It is a Bobo, right? Okay, it is a Bobo.
It is a Bobo. His full name, by the way, Bo Abobo.
Bobo.
Bobo. Yeah, Bo Abobo. Who we initially meet as part of the Mohawk gang.
Yes, but there's only 2 people in this gang, as far as I know.
Yeah. I think maybe there's some other guys with mohawks in large scenes, but you're right that only 2 members talk. There is Bo Abobo, and then a character who is only referred to as Smart Ass Mohawk, who is
I think that's his canon name. I believe that's actually his
There's
name
a lot of competition in this movie, but this guy might win most annoying character.
Yes.
But like I said,
that was clearly his one direction. Be more annoying, please.
There's a lot of annoying characters in this movie, so it's kind of tough. But yeah,
true.
It is. Wow, this is terrible.
So Abobo is part of a gang, but he also works for this large corporation.
Yes. Yeah.
He works for essentially Kellogg's.
I once again, I hate to say it, but he is supposed to be your Clarence Bodiger from RoboCop, right? The guy who's a gang member who is working as henchman for the corporate people.
Right. Yes.
And he will soon become science experiment of Shuko.
There's a decent amount of prosthetics because there's this whole lab of like people being experimented on.
Yeah.
And he might be the worst for the fact that he is the most heavily featured out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange that he's the worst prosthetics are used on him.
God.
He literally looks. I think they mentioned the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yes, we've all seen Ghostbusters.
The second they revealed him, I went, oh no.
And boy, they linger on this guy. He becomes a regular character by the end of this movie.
He does.
He's like a lead cast member.
His hero turn is so insane.
I think it's the spinach.
No, well, that probably helps, but they play this sad scene when he looks at himself in the mirror and he's just like, I am a monster.
Oh my God, John.
Is that monster I see
staring straight. Okay, wait,
Yeah.
you gotta stop before the Disney letters.
There's a Disney letter literally at my door right now.
Yeah.
Here they
sent
come.
a Bobo after me. Oh no.
Yeah. Bobo. Now, Bobo is actually played by two different people in this movie because there's
That
a guy
makes
who
sense.
plays the Mohawk Bobo, and there's a different guy in the costume. So, and like you could tell, who could tell? It both doesn't matter, and you can't tell. Like and it also, but it just speaks to just like this is not a character.
Now,
Now
does
he is,
become
from what I
better
gather,
at fighting after the experiment? Is that what we're led to believe?
I don't think he does though. I mean,
He
like
gets slower.
he gets slower, and he is bested in this fight by being knocked into a big net.
Yes.
So that Billy can, of course, say, nothing but net.
Ooh, yeah. Love so many good one-liners in this movie.
So I'll agree with so many one-liners in this movie.
I'd like to redact one word from that sentence, please.
He gets turned into. There's some line about I think I wrote down what they say about the experimental steroids they put. Oh, molecular steroids is what they put in him. It's Shuko's molecular steroids that they pump him full of, and it turns him into this big, bloated mutant guy.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a turd that's been sitting on a sidewalk for a couple of days, in the summer.
Now, looking at the game, like a little bit of the games, there are several Abobos that are like the bosses of each level, at least in the first game.
Oh, okay.
I think is the thing. And this is one of those when he showed up, I'm like, well, this has got to be this is too weird not to be from the video game. You know what I mean? Like,
I know the characters in the video. I don't know if he looks like this.
They really overdo a lot of it.
Yeah. Okay, so if you look at him in the game that I'm looking right now, he almost looks more like the Thing from the Fantastic Four.
Like he's a very large, swole guy.
Yeah,
and some representations he has a very large head.
Yeah,
but none of them he has those. I think those are his traps. the giant like bullfrog thing going around his neck.
Yeah, and
like,
that is
weird.
That is immediately what you notice. Of course, it's the first thing you're like, what? Yeah, it's really weird because the game design is so much simpler. He is just a big built dude who has kind of an orange pallor. And he does have a mohawk in some of the games, at least.
A mustache?
Yeah, it's interesting. The mustache seems to be the key design feature, and he doesn't have that in the movie, which is weird.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, like that would be something I would think you would seize upon.
I want to know who thought this design. Who thought this design was what it was?
Yeah, somebody has
it's
to.
Like, we got it.
I mean, it's a lower budget movie, but it is still made by a studio to come out in theaters, which means a lot of people have to sign off on the design of everything. And everybody went, yeah, that's what we want it to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. Our vision
John,
that's exactly our vision.
What's that?
John, did you say this was post Turtles?
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe they just thought, well, we need to have the big grotesque guy in prosthetic.
Yeah, and even like Turtles 2 has the Super Shredder.
Oh, that's right.
Remember where you get the big beefed up Shredder, and Turtles 2 also has Tokar and Razor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? Tokar and Razor are hilarious because they were supposed to be Bebop and Rocksteady, Shredder's henchmen from the comics, and the comics creators went, no, we'd rather not have you taint those characters we created. They refused to give them their characters because they're like, we like those guys too much, so you can't have Bebop and Rocksteady, actually.
The Turtles, throw them away.
Yeah.
Splinter, I don't give a fuck. April,
they're just like, well, we see what you want to do, and we'd rather you leave our guys out of this.
Bebop and Rocksteady, those are our fucking boys.
Yeah,
all right?
Those are our guys. Our pig and rhino henchmen. Those are our boys, man. We make a lot of money off of their toys, my friend. Because that is the thing about as much as the comics and the animation, those guys became millionaires on the fucking toy license, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
do I still have the storage bins full of them?
Yeah, man. Same here. I had everything. My parents spent a lot of money on Ninja Turtle shit when I was a kid, man. It was everything. Anyway, yeah, I do think you're right, Alex, there. The like a lot of stuff has, and also the year before, the Super Mario Brothers movie also has a lot of weird monster designs like this too. Remember the
Toads?
Yeah,
the Goombas.
The Goombas.
Yeah,
the Goombas with the weird. They had giant bodies and tiny lizard heads. Was the thing with
it's like the opposite of actual Goombas. They had giant heads.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. And then you also get the weird design of what King Koopa turns into at the end of the movie.
Which is I can't even put a finger on exactly what that was supposed to be, but
Yeah. Well, because the whole thing.
I just wanted a big spiky turtle shell. It's all I wanted.
Yeah. Oh man, if we didn't
maybe
already
tough red hair, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we didn't already have things set for the commentaries, I would say we should do a Super Mario Brothers Maybe we will at some point.
Yeah. That would be.
I think we'd have a lot to say about it at the very least.
I mean, this is not the last time we're going to be doing a video game themed month.
No, we'll get to it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But we are, of course, if you're not already one of our patrons this month, we will be doing commentaries for Street Fighter, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which, as we've said, is a first viewing. Neither one of us has seen that movie. So you will be getting first-time reactions as two we're both pretty big fans of the Resident Evil franchise, the game franchise. And have never.
I love the Resident Evil 2 remake. That was a really good,
absolutely.
Really great game.
And the Resident Evil 4 remake is coming out soon.
I'm curious about it. To me, Resident Evil 4 is like video game perfection, and so you don't need to improve on perfection. But
agreed.
We'll see what they do.
You and I always talk about Resident Evil 4 as a perfect game. All right. This movie is not worth going through like scene by scene or plot point by plot point. It really is.
It's impossible to follow. Nothing makes any fucking sense.
What I do love the scene where Shuko comes to the training facility or whatever, where the double dragons are hanging out.
You mean the theater that they live in inexplicably?
The theater they live in inexplicably. And what I love is he has the one half of the dragon pendant. And what's her name? Is it Satori?
Yeah, Satori, yeah.
Yeah, she goes, "You'll never get the other half of it." And then Scot Wolf walks in wearing it, going like, "Hey, what's going on here?"
Right?
And I'm just like, "It's right there.
Oh, there it is.
You'll
You'll
never find it." Hey, man. Yo, bro, what's up?
Hey, is there pizza?
Yeah.
Did you order pizza?
Oh, and we should talk about Scot Wolf. The whole movie has the plaid shirt tied around his waist, which is as 1994 as a design as I can think about.
It hurts. It hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's oh god, it is just. And Mark Dacascos' hair in this movie is also just that crazy 90s bangs that are split. Ugh.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yes.
Why did
He's got 90s protagonist hair for sure.
Absolutely.
I just wish they were wearing some like BK Knight light up sneakers.
Yes, that would really make this the ultimate 90s movie. Oh man,
Yes.
those were the things we thought were cool, man. We really,
Oh man.
I remember thinking those were the coolest things that could exist.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Shoes with lights on them. What? This is the height of fashion.
Though those were eventually supplanted by wheelies.
Yes.
You know,
Oh,
shoes with wheels.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which I did either of you ever have the Heelys? I never had them.
No,
I always
was
wanted
too
them.
afraid.
Yeah, I think that was the thing where it's like, well, and I think
It's a
it was
little bit
also,
after our time. I think we were a little too old for 'em.
yeah, I remember,
We were definitely in
Maybe.
high school when those came out.
Yeah,
and I remember
yeah.
thinking they were cool, but yeah, there was some part of me that knew, not for me though.
Yeah,
But the
yeah. I don't
idea of
need to
them
get
seemed
beat
good.
up that much, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah. So just that scene there, and then also all these magical powers and stuff that are around, and he just has his henchmen pour gasoline and burn this. I just thought, like, wait, what? Oh, okay. Everybody's got crazy powers, but then it's just like, boys, and then the Lee brothers just kind of stand there, going like, oh no. I'm like, well, maybe try to stop them pouring the gasoline. There's like, oh shit, oh this is bad.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
We'll just watch it happen, and then we'll half-heartedly try to save our mother figure, Satori.
yeah.
So.
Before she closes herself into the theater to let them survive, so we can see them dive away from the exploding theater.
Boy.
It's
I do think the practical effect of the theater exploding was pretty good, though.
not a
Pretty
bad
good.
explosion. Not a bad explosion at all. And of course, as the theater is burning, you do get. We haven't talked about the blonde female henchman of Juko, but she does say,
Oh, the
Lash.
"Yeah, Lash with her whip."
Mm-hmm.
That's from the game, right?
yes. Although her name wasn't Lash, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was a villain henchman in the games who used a whip for sure.
Yeah. Let me see here.
This was when every female villain used a whip as a weapon.
Well, because we're just 2 years out from Batman Returns, which is heavy on the whip.
Exactly.
Okay.
Heavy
So-
on the whip. Is it half calf as well?
It's half cap. Yeah. So I do like. Okay. So this is another example of like the Shuko thing where the bad guy was just Willie. In the game, her name is Linda, and then here they make her full name Linda Lash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So she is still Linda, but she's Linda Lash, whereas in the game
Okay.
she's just Linda. Now Marion is the girl you're trying to save, which is Alyssa Milano's character's name. So that's but yeah, Linda Lash. But she
Did you
does
see
say
in the second game, it starts out with her character getting murdered.
no. That's insane.
Yeah, that's the plot of the second game, is getting revenge for her murder.
Oh, we didn't treat female characters well in the 90s.
Oh no, we did not.
But she does say, as the place is burning, is it getting hot in here, or is it just me?
Oh, right, it's the whip lady who says
The whip
that.
lady who says that.
Yeah.
How does she survive the explosion?
They all just kind of walk out and the place blows up.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't really know.
Right.
And the running thing that's kind of a one-liner is Scott is the whole thing about "you're ugly, I'm homely." Mark Dacascos says.
Yeah, real great running
Yes,
joke.
they're the Lee brothers, Ugg and Home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That is
very clever.
Yeah, and that
You think that's a Paul Dini edition? You think those
yeah,
Paul
that's
Dini's,
probably that's classic Dini kind of writing right there.
Yeah,
that's
I
the kind
remember
of
that
stuff
from the
that
animated series,
that
that
made
kind of
him such a good Batman
repartee.
writer.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, yeah.
And they only repeat that joke 4 or 5 times. It never gets old.
It never
Now,
gets old.
They
ever.
throw away the old adage of comedy working in threes. You know, they're like, what if 8 was actually the number of times we should have a callback?
Comedy working
If
in
3
tens.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what's better
Wait,
than
what
3?
we have for you.
If it works 3 times, why can't it work 10 times? Is what we say. Because other movies didn't have the balls to commit to jokes like that.
Yeah.
We also know about this movie as a boat chase for no reason.
That was strange.
Yep.
That came out. What I love is they there's a scene where they're getting attacked by all the gangs,
Yes.
and so they hide in this boathouse, and they're like, "Oh man, great! There's a boat in here." And then they burst out in this boat, and they go like, "They'll never get us." And then out of nowhere, just bad guys have jet skis.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there are jet skis in that boathouse as well, or if some of them showed up in jet skis. There could have been a jet ski themed gang, as far as we know.
Very much could. And of course, in all apocalyptic fashion, you have the Hollywood sign here now, waterfront.
Yes,
because everything is flooded. / the earthquake has brought the sign down to.
Yeah, it's all just like, see, man, the world is tarnished.
I think this scene has the worst CG effects, which is just the cityscape being flooded.
It's way too ambitious for this budget.
Oh my god. This is one of the big sins that especially a lot of older movies fall for, is that they get way too ambitious for what the budget is. Whereas like a lot of the more modern stuff we watch is the exact opposite. They're so unambitious, but they're boring.
It is sort of just going like, but you get Oh, and essentially, this is only a couple years out from Waterworld. Waterworld's a couple years after this, which is famously, like, at the time, the most expensive movie ever, because actually trying to do a World of Water is chaos.
Filming a whole movie on just water, that would be...
The documentary about the making of Waterworld, I highly recommend, about just being one of the most disastrous shoots. So yeah, it's great because that entire movie, every single set was floating on the ocean.
Oh, jeez.
And stuff kept getting wrecked by hurricanes and stuff like that.
Of course.
Yeah. Horrible movie to work on. I love that movie though. I am a big Waterworld defender, as has come up on the show before, I think. So they get into a big boat chase, and then we need to talk about. We've mentioned it a couple times, but to torture information out of a Bobo, Alyssa Milano is force feeding him spinach.
Yes,
and he
through
is
like a beer bong,
like a farting like nobody's business. It's the 90s, and farts are funny.
I actually do think farts are funny, but
they can be. There, you can do a good fart joke. I'm not sure.
Conceptually speaking, it's just a funny thing the body does.
Yeah, no, and it's a great arena for comedy. Not sure I'm looking forward to my Double Dragon movie.
Really? No. Mel Brooks? Yeah, probably.
Mel Brooks is the master. I mean, Blazing Saddles is the all-time best fart joke by far.
Exactly.
That campfire scene is genius. But yeah, terrible.
Disgusting. Like, this whole sequence was so disturbing. I just want to take footage from this movie and like put it on a screen in the background of some sort of weird experimental theater like performance.
Just have people going like,
you know what I mean?
what is
the fuck is this? Yeah,
1994.
I felt very inspired by this movie.
I do think this whole podcast is just you and I going, shit, we could write some action movie. It doesn't seem that hard.
This is insanity.
Yeah, if this shit counts, we could easily write something better than this. Man, if the bar is
Can't
this
do
low,
any worse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If these are things that are getting legitimate releases, man, we're just fine. Yeah. So they, the brothers end up in the secret power core compound because they're looking for a bathroom and accidentally fall into the hideout.
That's true. Well, they were looking for it.
Right. And they think
because they we need help,
right?
Or something.
And it's this whole terrible. Once again, don't try. These movies should not try to be funny. That's an action shelf staple. The whole thing about it says to go this way. It's like, don't you know, bro? That's a total fake out. They want us to do that. Instead, we should go this way. And then they end up falling through a trap door. And then Alyssa Milano says, "Why didn't you just take the stairs? There's a sign." I told you. This really feels like bad Bill and Ted material.
Yeah, definitely.
Whoa! And also the amount of times they high five in this movie.
But it's also the weirdest high five because I think Jimmy is always doing the double fist, and then Billy's doing the open hand. So they're doing double turkey, I think is what they're doing.
Classic double turkey situation.
Double turkey.
Double turkey. Annihilated. But and once again, I don't. That maybe all that kind of stuff. I'm going. Maybe that's a thing from the game. After they defeat somebody, they do something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the only thing in my mind that could explain some of the decisions where I'm going, well, the only way that makes any sense to me is if that's some kind of reference to the game. A lot of the weirdest stuff.
So much isn't though.
No, that's the
earthquake thing. In the games, it's nuclear apocalypse is what it is.
They thought that
it's an actual apocalypse.
They think that I think they thought that was too dark and or too expensive.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Where they're just I don't know, nuclear ravage stuff, that's gonna cost money.
I want to see Double Dragon done with the seriousness of Chernobyl. That's actually what I want to see.
Yeah, that's what we need. Well, Craig Mazin is doing the Last of Us show. He's a video game guy. Maybe
we'll see if it lives up to Double Dragon.
If it can possibly live up to Double Dragon, because it will have come out by the time you're hearing this, but it's just premiering as we're recording this. So I am very excited for it. I've heard nothing but great things. So they end up here. Well, yeah, so when they break into Shuko's headquarters, they do this by having their child terrorists rollerblade around the lobby of his building, just so security can go, "Hey, you kids, get out of here!" I mean, this is the same thing the Mighty Ducks do to adults in those movies. These crazy kids on their I mean, number one, when people are on rollerblades were in the 90s as well.
Do you remember, John, the Mighty Ducks cartoon?
Of course
series?
I do. Where there's some kind of weird duck hockey future cops?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been the wildest. Even as a child, I'm like, wait, hold on.
What? Yeah.
Movie, they're just kids. They're just on a hockey team. Why are they fighting crime? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Is this the same world?
It's weird. It's really weird.
Do you remember one of the slogans or something was "Quack to business"? Does that sound right?
I mean, it does. Yeah, I think they used just about every possible duck pun you could think about across that whole franchise at some point, right?
So that was also the 90s. The 90s were a weird time. It explains why everyone I know who grew up in the 90s is super fucking weird. Because we watched this weird shit.
Well, I told you I've been one of my quarantine since it started. things has been rewatching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and you're just like, that show is filled with, you're just like, dude, this is so bizarre.
Oh, I mean, just all of the different action figure toys we had. Street sharks, just buff anthropomorphic shark dudes. That's all it was. It was that and a cartoon show that came with it.
Oh, they were so jawsome though.
I mean, that Vin Diesel commercial is
amazing.
maybe the perfect, like, if you could infuse that commercial with Crystal Pepsi, that is the most perfect time capsule of the 90s you will ever see.
It really is. It really is. Man,
can you imagine how much better watching this movie would have been if there was commercial breaks of like 90s commercials?
All right. Yeah.
I would legitimately love that. I think that would be great.
The new Super Soaker Extreme or Gusher, get some Gushers ads in here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nightmare-inducing Gushers ads.
Yeah, where the kids would turn into fruit.
Capri Suns were real weird too.
Well, because everything in the 90s,
factories going on.
Everything in the 90s was. I mean, the joke is always it was extreme, but it was. So, like, yeah, your juice pouch had to be like, I'm on a surfboard or rollerblading or skateboarding and drinking this juice that's just sugar. There's no fruit in here at all. Yeah. All right. We were both super health conscious and also consumed nothing but garbage in the 90s. It was a weird dichotomy where it was like,
very strange.
We were obsessed with artificial things, right? It was like the perception of the reduced fat stuff. And you're like, yeah, but actually what they're putting in to reduce the fat is way worse than
exactly.
But
it's before we caught wind of it. You know,
we love
they
that
want to get
concept,
away
though.
with a bunch of shit.
We love the perception we were eating healthy things without actually. It's just the 90s was kids. The 90s was weird.
It's weird. It was weird.
Nothing like that 1,400 calorie McDonald's salad.
Exactly. Where you go like, it's a salad.
It's a salad. It's got to be healthy.
If you call anything a salad, people will be like, I guess that's good for me then. Load me up.
It's got them vegetables.
I you know what? I was surprised. I looked around. This movie there was no like fast food or toy tie-in with it. It does seem like they would have tried to do that.
This went so under the radar. I
think it did, but it does seem like a movie.
I think even the studio knew nobody's gonna fucking watch this.
Oh
shit.
Man, I'm looking at the toys though, not from the movie. I definitely had the Billy and Jimmy Double Dragon. I don't know if this might have been from the cartoon show.
That makes sense.
I distinctly remember having these though, and they're in there. Oh God, when they get the costumes at the end of this movie,
boy.
Those
wow,
sparkly things.
Those did not look cool.
Finally, and they were expecting kids to be like, finally, they're in their game costumes. And you're like, oh God.
Ugh.
No, they were like Pinkwind, and they looked like they should be doing like a Vegas show.
It does look like the Vegas strip show version of Double Dragon.
Couple of rhinestone douchebags.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know what I love is they get the outfits and then they don't do anything once they're in them.
Nope. No. It's after the climax of the film, right? Or it is the climax.
It's the climax of the film. We can just skip to the way they defeat Robert Patrick is because they now have the soul power. They just enter his body. So disturbing. The whacking, jacking, the entering of people's bodies. This movie.
Super fucked up, yeah. And they're just like, it's a good goof.
And they of course they make him, hey, bro. And once again, Robert Patrick, pretty game to be doing like, I'm a surfer dude. And so, sadly, good actors in this movie. But they just have him turn himself in. And I'm like, that's it? They're not going to fight him?
Nope. They have him turn himself in and make out a personal check to the police department.
To keep, here you go. I'm going to keep the police department funded.
Here's
what?
Yeah.
So the police department is privately funded?
I guess so.
The money?
The government has abandoned them, so I guess that's the idea.
But
yeah.
Why is I don't understand why the police are there.
The whole subplot with Alyssa Milano's father, who's the police chief, that guy is the most ill-defined of a movie full of ill-defined characters.
He's also gives the most boring performance.
Well, because they do. There is a scene where you see Robert Patrick try to bribe him, and he's like, "No way, buddy. I don't sell my badge for anyone." Like, they want him to be like a Jim Gordon. Speaking of Paul Dini, right? Like, sort of just like, "I don't care, buddy. You can't buy me." But then at the end, that's the thing, because he goes like, "Keep your money." He's like, "No, arrest me too. Just take the money as well and help the city." He's like, "Oh, okay." But like I said, the fact that this movie ends with the villains being loaded into police cars and handcuffs is like, well, that's pretty weird.
They were setting up for the sequel, right? They wanted Robert Patrick to come back.
I'll get you, Lee Brothers. And next time
he can murder Melissa Milano.
Yeah.
Or Alyssa Milano.
Yeah. Well, and then you get the really weird ending where they think Billy has taken over a Bobo's body, but really it's just a Bobo who has gone from villain to pathetic to comic sidekick.
He's really the Slimer of this franchise.
He kind of is, yeah. Because at the end of the movie, he's like, "Oh, also, I think he's getting dumber by the end of the movie." Because at the beginning, he's a guy, he's like, "I'm a Mohawk" or whatever. And by the end, he goes, "Me drive car. Go real fast." What I love is clearly he couldn't get in the car in that costume, right? So you see him start to get in the car, cut to he's in the car. Which actually is the thing with RoboCop, too. I think we've talked about that you can't actually get RoboCop into a car. It has to be that because they have to like cut the car apart to put the RoboCop costume in there, and it's actually legitimately apparent. I've heard that in Hobbs and Shaw, to get Dwayne Johnson into like those high-end Italian sports cars, they actually have to grease him up and slide him in, because those cars are built small, light. They're not built for a man the Rock size, so they have to like slide him in.
God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
You're going like, yeah, you can't put the Rock in a Ferrari. Like, that's just it's not made for him. So, I do think that's funny. But so, yeah, the end of the movie is, once again, I guess this would have continued in the sequel, this weird love triangle of the Lee brothers and Alyssa Milano. And then you get one of the last of multiple. We haven't talked, but there's a lot of the time in the movie where the Lee brothers look at each other and then go, "Ah!" which is a very 90s movie where they're screaming kind of at the camera slightly.
Yes, exactly. In a way that nobody would actually do.
No.
Yeah.
And as a Bobo drives off, and then weirdest beat at the end of this movie.
I don't know if that's true, John. I think the weirdest beat is still a Bobo staring into a mirror for like a 45-second scene where he's coming to terms with his monstrosity, his new state.
A Bobo become? So weird.
Am I even still a Bobo?
Yeah.
What is a man?
Yeah.
What is a monster?
Am I man or monster?
Is man the real monster?
He's staring into the mirror. But yeah, at the end of the movie, they speed off the Lee brothers, Alyssa Milano, and a Bobo, and we pass by Al Leong and one of the other henchmen, who literally have signs that say "We'll hench for food."
Yes.
And they're like, "Oh man, now that Shuko got arrested, we gotta find new jobs." And I just was sitting there going like, what just end movie? Why do you need a comic beat? Who is this for? I mean, I'm glad Al Leong gets more to do because I love that guy, but not like, I mean, Al Leong does have one of the funniest moments in Die Hard when he eats that Crunch bar.
That's true, and that was all him.
That was all him. It's so funny where he's holding his machine gun position, and then he looks, and he's at a candy display, and he's like, and then when it cuts back to him, he's eating the candy bar that he took. Like, that's funny. That was funny. This is not. This is terrible. And it goes on for a bit. There's a bit of back and forth here. They're the Abbott and
is,
Costello of this. I wonder if we would have seen these guys in the imaginary sequel, which we
I'd like
might
to think so.
We might be coming up with that sequel in just a second here.
They're the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of Double Dragon.
They
universe.
really are, aren't they? And so that's kind of the movie. Is there anything else we didn't talk about? Because we just kind of skipped around this one.
Yeah, it's.
Is there anything?
It's hard to focus on anything in
No,
particular.
and I think that's totally fine for this movie. But is there anything that we didn't talk about?
No,
Could not tell you.
No,
I think I covered
kind of.
most of my notes were just like individual things to remember that happened in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
the
it was
only-
kind of just a loosely strung together bunch of chase scenes.
Well, because it
did feel like
it's all just
Go ahead.
he wants medallion, they have medallion, they try to keep it away from him. It's a very simple plot.
I'm wondering if maybe this movie was a writing exercise. Like at every step of the process, you make the worst decision possible. And that's how this movie is created. That's what it feels like to me,
So it's about two brothers. Oh, but they don't look like they're actually related.
Yeah, one's white, one's Asian. Okay, great, perfect. What a great way to start. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Robert Patrick will be playing what is his name? Shuko. Yuga Shuko or something. Yeah.
Koga.
Very Japanese sounding. Kogashuko, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. All right. There's a Adobo who will turn into a giant meat monster for no reason.
It does. It seems like
we-
one of our things at the end of the show. We're just like, let's just throw some shit at the screen here.
Yeah, exactly. Because they saw Akira right before this, and like, we need a giant meat monster somewhere in here. So that's I guess what they came up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeesh.
Anyway, this movie's not good, but I don't know that I would say avoid it because it is fascinating. It's kind of a fascinating. I will say, if you can find some kind of YouTube highlight reel of like the weirdest or best or moments from this movie,
It must exist.
yeah,
It must
like
exist.
just get a taste,
I believe there's also a riff tracks of this.
Ooh, that's good
Ooh,
too.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. That I do think this is a movie that's aided by that. How Did This Get Made did an episode about it too. That's worth listening to. There's because it's just you just need to soak up the strangeness of it, but I'm not sure you actually need to take the full 96-minute ride.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, well, we were a little harsh on this movie, but I don't actually know that many people get killed in it, so I don't have a best kill for this one. I don't think there is one.
And none of the villains die,
No.
as far as I know.
And even the woman who the woman who dies at the beginning,
Linda
comes
Lash. Oh wait, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
their mentor woman, Psycho, or that's not Psycho. Sarit, what's her name? I have it here. Satori.
vaguely Japanese. Satori.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even she comes back as like a force ghost at the end, sort of, to be like, when they get the double dragon, she appears in the like magic mist to be like, this was your destiny.
Holy shit! I completely forgot about that. Oh my god.
Yeah.
This movie is a fever dream. Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm getting traumatic flashbacks now.
Yeah.
I hear choppers in the distance, John.
Johnny. Yeah. So, I don't think we have anything of that. Can we pick a best one-liner from the? We didn't even talk about all the one-liners. So let's.
I mean, what's there to talk about, John?
Well, how about when we mentioned earlier, Scot Wolf makes a guy trip on gumballs, and then that guy's head falls into a suitcase and he's knocked unconscious, and Scot Wolf says, "What a head case."
Let's just pause here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pause the process here
Yeah.
because this henchman shows up later and he still has the suitcase
Yeah.
around his hair because he couldn't figure out how to open up a stupid fucking suitcase.
What a
Yes,
head
when he
case.
goes to light the theater on fire.
Yes, he still has this.
That's
At first it's
that's
like,
the
why is he
kind
still
of movie
holding
we're
the
talking about.
suitcase?
That's the kind of movie we're talking about.
Yes.
So you have that.
Mhm.
When a Bobo falls into the net, it does nothing but net. When they're
Yeesh.
lighting the theater, is it just me or is it hot in here? Of course, the previously mentioned "You're ugly, I'm homely." Oh,
Mhm.
when they're in the morgue and he says, "Be quiet, you'll wake the dead."
And then
And then a
a body does
guy
start. Yeah.
sits up. Yeah.
And then Shuko possesses one with his double dragon power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm,
And then
mhm.
at the end, you have Shuko say to Scott Wolf, "You're weak like your father." And he responds, "Well, you're ugly like your mother."
Oh, this is like the height of your mother jokes, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
That
that
early
might be the
2000s.
winner here. That's the
Unfortunately,
sickest
yeesh.
burn in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, none of this will ever come back for the Shelfies, so don't worry.
Yeah. No,
You'll never
no.
hear these again. Well, like I said, we were a little rough on this movie, but believe it or not, some people don't mind it. So, in my quest to find the strangest IMDb reviews, this one's pretty weird. So this comes to us from IMDb user Krishna Diehouse 66313. I don't know.
Mm.
And the review is titled "Great Cast. Love this movie. I think it's very underrated. Look how innocent and silly it is. Good versus evil. No sex scenes or cursing. So many cute, adorable cast members, all of which I still watch to this day, especially in a time where humanity needs to be wiped out and will wipe itself out in due time. People are horrible, just like in this movie, always wanting the power and control. Very selfish, everyone is. These movies help me escape to a better place in time. 10 out of 10 stars.
What a wild
Whoa.
turn.
That was,
Wow.
I know, right? Yeah.
What a cute cast. Humanity's doomed.
Humanity should be wiped off the face of the earth.
But in the meantime, I can enjoy Double Dragon. Like, it's so, yeah, very weird review.
I woke up this morning fully anticipating to go and murder somebody in cold blood with my bare hands, but then I watched Double Dragon and it stopped me. It satiated my thirst.
The weird thing, it starts with a puritanical kind of Christian, like, well, hey, no sex scenes or cursing, so that's nice.
Right.
But then it's just like, and humanity can eat it, you know?
Yeah.
So bizarre, man. So bizarre.
Yeesh.
Now,
Okay,
unfortunately, our
well.
pal Bruce didn't see this. So
This doesn't seem like a Bruce movie.
I don't
to
think
me.
Bruce. There's a lot of magic and a lot of kicking. He'd like the kicking, but yeah, a little too
There's
much
no killing
fantasy for him,
or shooting.
Yeah, a little too much, a little too little of that. So I will instead continue with something I started last week for this segment of the winning opinion. This is Bruce's review of The Wire season 3. We talked about Bruce's love of the television series The Wire and how he seems to ignore everything that people praise The Wire about, its criticisms of the systemic failures and the war on drugs. And instead, he really enjoys it as an action program. So this is his review of season 3 of The Wire, which most people consider to be the real high point of the series, like the best season. So here it is. His review is titled, "The sun just set here, but tomorrow is season 4 of 5. Bring it." That's the title.
Okay.
I like this sort of crime drama. I like the violence. I like the shooting. I like the punching and kicking. This season's story was about legalizing drugs. How does this experiment turn out? 5 out of 5 stars. Ooh. It made Bruce think this time. How does legalizing drugs turn out? I mean, on The Wire, not well.
Great.
Yeah, is how it works in
Real life.
Well, the Wire brings up a very interesting point about, because once again, it's a real thinky show that doesn't have answers and raises a lot of valid questions. But Bruce is going, I like when they shoot the guns.
Yeah, they go bang bang boom.
And I will say, I don't remember much punching and kicking ever on that show though. Like, it's not.
Yeah,
not
not I remember.
Not a lot of fight scenes on The Wire. People get shot, but there's not a lot of like hand-to-hand combat. So I don't know what show Bruce is watching. But we'll
tell
have
you.
we'll have
Is it
more.
Walker, Texas Ranger?
Oh, sorry. I wrote this for The Wire. This is actually a review of season 3 of Walker, Texas Ranger. Anyway, we'll continue Bruce's because he does review every season, so we'll continue those as we fill in the gaps for movies he doesn't do. But let's. We did talk about. I think this was meant to be a franchise, but obviously this didn't take off. But let's imagine a world where it did get a franchise, and I'm going to fire up the handy dandy action movie title generator, and we're going to come up with the subtitle. So this will be Double Dragon : here it is. And I've set it, by the way, because this new our new updated version I can set it to different genres. So I'm putting this in fantasy, I think, because of the magic and stuff involved. So that we need to. What is the plot of Double Dragon : Wolf of the Dungeons?
Wolf of the Dungeons.
Wolf
Ooh,
of
evocative.
the Dungeons. Yeah, I think.
So there's another pendant.
Ooh, it's a wolf pendant. I like it. They have the double dragon, but instead they discover the wolf pendant and somebody else.
The lone wolf pendant. It's not two. It's just one pendant.
And somebody else, Kogashuko, from his prison cell, has also discovered the location of this. But due to budget constraints, Kogashuko is now played by Eric Roberts instead of Robert Patrick.
Of course, yeah. Well, prison has changed him, John.
Yeah. And that's one of his lines. Is like, you look different than I remember. Prison has changed me.
Yeah.
So he orchestrates a breakout with the help of course, his loyal henchman like Lash. Right?
What about this, John? Because it's Wolf of the Dungeons,
Wolf
right?
of the Dungeons, yeah.
So what if going to prison was part of the plan the whole time?
Oh, I love it.
Buried deep below the prison is like it was built upon the ruins of another prison, which is the last recorded location of this lone wolf's pendant.
Oh,
I love it. That is great.
So the first movie was all part of his plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His master plan.
and then almost Game of Death style, the double dragons have to fight their way through prisoners down to the bottom where they finally have their final confrontation with Kogashuko.
Yeah. And this time Abobo is on their side, so we also get him doing stuff as he's learning to tame the beast inside. We get we get a whole storyline about him choosing to go against his monster instincts.
Oh, we definitely get Abobo juggernauting through the prison wall.
Yeah!
That's how the brothers make their entrance.
Yes.
Somebody order some Abobo.
Abobo to go-go!
There you go. There it is. There it is. Absolutely. And they are in the sparkly outfits the whole movie, too.
Of course, yes.
The whole time.
The whole time. Yes. Well, there you go. That's Double Dragon: Wolf of the Dungeons, coming soon to a 1995 drive-in. Well, next week on the show, Alex, you mentioned him earlier, but yes, it wouldn't be a video game month without an Uwe Boll production. So we have to get a little Uwe Boll in here. And I've never seen this movie. We are talking about his 2008 adaptation of Far Cry. Yes, that's right. The first-person shooter game franchise Far Cry. He made a movie of, which is really bizarre to me. I don't know quite what it is. But our good friend joining the show for the first time, we tried to get this guy on several times before, but it finally worked out. Our good friend Reed Morris will be with us to talk about the Far Cry movie from Uwe Boll.
To threaten him.
We did have to,
is what happened. Yeah.
We have some dirt on him that we threatened to release that could really put a damper on his life. No, he'll be coming on and talking about that. No tagline listman on this movie. What more is needed? I guess what more is needed to advertise it than Uwe Boll's Far Cry?
I think we know what to expect.
We do have.
I think.
I don't want to say I'm looking forward to anything in this movie because it's gonna be terrible. But It is Till Schweiger who's playing the lead in it, and we do love him as Stieglitz in Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious Bastards, yeah.
I love Udo Kier, who's playing the villain in it. That guy is always good for a creepy
Far Cry
performance.
games are known for having eccentric villains.
They are, and I mean, if it wasn't Uwe Boll, Far Cry, you could imagine being a cool action shelf movie. They're built to be. They're really inspired by crazy action films.
Yes,
so
yeah,
it's a bummer. And actually, I do have, and I'll share this here, a piece of trivia that Uwe Boll bought the rights to Far Cry before the game had even come out. So he just got
before the first game ever came out.
Correct.
Whoa,
it was just in development, and he got word of it and got the rights to it. Because 2008, this movie comes out. That's not too long. I mean, when did that game come out? It had to be around the same time, right?
I don't remember. Yeah,
yeah,
that's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, the game came out in 2004. So I mean, that's pretty close though to get 4 years to get a movie adaptation of a video game. That's wild. So we will be talking about Far Cry. No idea what to expect. It is on Amazon Prime if you want to watch along with us. Be warned.
It's Uwe Boll. If you haven't seen an Uwe Boll film, prepare yourself.
This whole month was us basically going, okay, not every week can be an Uwe Boll movie. It would have been really easy to program just Uwe Boll video game movies.
Oh, you could do a Uwe Boll year.
Oh, easily.
I will say,
work is
over on my Monsters podcast, Meet the Monsters, we will be doing his Blood Rain movies over there. So
I'm sorry.
No. John, whenever you're recording those, I'm busy. I'm sorry.
Oh, what? Come on, Listman.
Whenever that's happening, I've got
that
stuff
really
going on
seems
that
like
day,
an action shelf crossover opportunity, though.
I mean, it would be so perfect, but I'm sorry, something just came up.
Your schedule's too jam packed.
Yeah, exactly.
Alex, I want to thank you for coming on. You continue to choose the weirdest movies, which is great. I love that you have
it's a theme.
I love that you have a reputation on the show for that. And you will continue to, because I know you're already signed up for a couple things later this year. So yeah, very
goodies.
excited. Yeah.
I will keep my track record going strong, I believe.
I think
so.
you definitely will. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Action Shelf. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Michael Isman.
Till next week, get yourself some action.
The Action Shelf. The Action Shelf.